Good morning, Sean.
Morning. What's up, guys?
We're having a silly conversation. We have all kinds of quarterback questions for you. And as I mentioned earlier, not only did you actually play the position in the NFL, but you coach young quarterbacks all the time, and you're you are my favorite person to talk to when it comes to up-and-coming quarterbacks. And we have a lot of young quarterbacks we need to talk about this week. But we were talking about Tom Brady, and I know you and I agree on this. Like, Tom's the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback of all time, most accomplished, blah, blah, blah. But then you're starting to hear the term BOAT, the best of all time. And I'm very curious, would you agree that Tom's the greatest, but he's not the best in the sense of an Elway, a Marino, a Manning, that he head-to-head, he's not the same type of quarterback or has as good an arm as those guys, or am I way off?
Okay, now what do you now, are we describing best as measurables?
Yes.
Is that fair? Right?
The most gifted quarterbacks.
Oh, no. No, here's what it is. If you went out in the Superstars competition, shorts and a T-shirt, and you did it all, lift, run, throw, a little bit of everything. Now, I think he's an underrated. I mean, what he's done is he's gotten better, like with his feet, as he's gotten older.
Sure.
I think he's just as good now as he was when he was 32.
Yep.
He's 42 years old. But if you're talking about Elway, Rodgers, hell, no offense, but in a Superstars competition, and when I was healthy, I'd have destroyed him. Friggin', it wouldn't have been funny. I would have destroyed him. In a Superstars competition, one of those where pick up different types of athletic things, and you run, you lift, you throw for distance, all those things, and my fastball versus his fastball, and I'm just using me as an example, kind of joking.
Sure.
So you can imagine, I think the most gifted that's ever played is Elway. I mean, John is, arm strength, feet, the ability to throw it. Now, when John was playing 58, 59% was accurate. Now, here's where the difference is. Aaron Rodgers, all those guys. There's probably a backup that's more physically, I mean, when you say Cam Newton, there's a lot of guys who, when you say measurables, better than Brady. But here's why he's the best of all time. It's not close. It doesn't, and people say he's a system quarterback. If I stuck Tom in San Francisco with Joe Montana's players, hell, look out.
Yep.
If I stuck him in Oakland, they'd be a playoff team. If I took him right now and put him in Miami, they'd win 8 games. So he's that guy. So when you've got shorts and a T-shirt on, and then you say, okay, let's put a helmet on and do all football-related quarterback skills with bodies defending, like a detractor, like a moving tackling dummy or a moving target, and then say, let's throw to that. Now, he'll lose the distance throw, but the scope on football-related stuff, quarterback-related measurements, you'll hand him the belt there too. So, yes, I get what people are saying. He is the greatest of all time, the most accomplished. Would he? And he would. I don't even think he'd say he'd win in one of those measurables. There's plenty that have been better than Tom. The difference is processing, the mental side, processing information, the mechanics. There is no better ever played the position mechanically. So when you apply all that, that's the perfect idea of, whoa, we got a big, strong thrower we're going to draft first. Blake Bortles, the 3rd pick of the draft. But then we're going to apply all the football stuff that goes to it. And Blake Bortles wouldn't finish in the same area code or 4 states close to Tom Brady. So I use him as an example. That's the separation. Plenty been physically better. None have been better.
Sean Salisbury joining us here on The Drive. So, Sean, the storyline is the amount of quarterbacks that have been hurt and the guys getting opportunities. You've lived this reality as well. What is the challenge of, let's say a quarterback got hurt in game and now it's your job compared to, all right, I've got maybe a week to prepare. Take us through each of those scenarios and the challenges of backups getting one thrown into the fire during a game or having about a week to prep.
And, guys, isn't it funny how with all these quarterback injuries, none of them are head injuries, right?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
And, have you noticed no media, none of us are talking about it?
No.
We're saying, there's a lot of injuries. But isn't it amazing how we're more, if it's a shoulder, a thumb, a knee, an ankle, it's just no big deal. It's okay. But, boy, the second we're protecting our quarterbacks, the second we think it may be a minor concussion or a possible concussion, or man, his head hit the turf. Well, we got to protect our quarterbacks. But we don't care if their knee's blown out or their ankle or their thumb. But boy, we got to protect them, and we overprotect them. So I just had to get that dig in there on the fact that even if I sat down with every quarterback that's played the game since 1975 in a private room having a cold beer, 95% of them would say rules are too easy on the quarterback, period.
Sean, let me ask you, because I know we've talked about this before, to your point. If you did that same thing, you pulled all those quarterbacks in a private room, and you gave them a choice between 2 concussions or a shredded knee, which do they choose, or mostly? Which?
I've shredded my knee twice.
Yep.
I'll take the concussion.
Yep, and most wouldn't they?
I can come back from those faster, and they're not keeping me out a full year.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's less tangible, if you know what I mean, because we kind of don't know. Knee surgery, I know, and I know the grind, the mental and emotional grind. So back to the quarterback situation. Here's what it is. And when I can speak to this, I spent my life, for the most part, being that guy who, when a guy went down, you better be ready to play. You don't get reps, so you better take all the mental reps on the planet in your mind. Hence why, like catchers, sometimes backup quarterbacks make, it's good coaches at times, good play callers, because we've had to study it a different way. We didn't get to do it physically 17 straight weeks or 14 straight weeks. We had to be ready mentally, because when the mental, I know in Minnesota, and I can tell you this for a fact from Denny and Brian Billick, my goal was, you're not changing this offense when I go in, that while I may not be Warren Moon or Jim McMahon, I don't intend for you to have a big fall off when it comes to what you expect from me calling plays. You're not crap canning your offense and saying, well, we can't do this with Sean. Warren may do things better than Sean, but we're still calling the same plays. So the goal, if you're coming in the middle of the third quarter, it's just you better be mentally ready, and you better have gotten your playbook that week and taken a lot of mental reps. And we expect you to keep the team afloat. Denny always said, drive the bus. He goes, you don't have to be the bus, just drive it. And that made good sense. Don't get us beat. But he never ever once told me, Sean, don't play, and we're going to play it safe. We're playing this to keep it close, not to lose. He never told me that. He went out and said, we're going to win this thing. And I thought that was a good message to send. I hate coaches that say, well, we're going to protect it. We're going to play this not to lose, and we're going to play close to this. Screw that. My job, I get paid, is to be prepared. So the initial, and you guys know that, the first time a guy gets a start, sometimes he has a great game. Why? We're not thinking about it. We're just trying to survive, so you go play just normal football. Now, the reverse is when you become the starter and sustaining it. I've seen a lot of guys play good for 2 weeks. Then when you got to go week 5 and week 6, the preparation's different. It's physical. Now the players on the team, your expectations are, you're the number one, you're QB1, brother. QB2, we'll cut you a little slack, not much. We still want to win, but QB1, you're the guy. So your preparation, the media attention, the way you got to be in, and all the reps are yours. So you can't let the mental stuff go while you now get the physical. And I've seen it happen where guys say, well, now that I'm getting the physical stuff, I won't study as much. No, I've always tell them this. You train like a backup, and you perform like a starter. That's what I tell my quarterbacks and anybody I'm with, meaning you train because somebody's got your job that you want, and when you get there, you better play like the guy who has your job. So it's a different dynamic, because sustaining it and having that. My first start when I first started with the against the Rams in Minnesota, my very first start of my NFL career, was like I was prepared and it went well. But then you think, if I got to sustain it for 5 or 6 weeks, it's different. But if you get thrown into a game like I did against Tampa, and you say, what do I got to lose, man? I'm going to cut it loose, and you have a great game. You come from behind and win. So there is a different dynamic towards the sustaining of it in 1 or 2 games. But my job as a backup, I get paid, is to not let my team down. And that was my biggest fear for my guys to look at me and say, you weren't prepared. And I was never going to let that. You may beat me, but I was never going to be ill-prepared.
Sean, Salisbury's show is also heard, in addition to Houston, in New Orleans, and that's where we go next with that quarterback situation. Drew Brees out, they take on the Seattle Seahawks, who have a pretty decent defense. I want to ask you about both quarterbacks there. Sean Payton said in the past that he thinks Taysom Hill's best comparison is Steve Young. That's really high praise, and there's been a lot talked about Payton's love affair with Taysom Hill. But they also have Teddy Bridgewater. So 2 parts here. A, were you a little surprised that Teddy Bridgewater went to New Orleans to back up Drew Brees? In other words, that he could have been a starter on other teams? And also, do you see Peyton gravitating towards Taysom Hill if Bridgewater shows any cracks in the armor?
Yeah, I would say that the comparison to Steve Young's pretty high praise, right?
Yeah.
Now, they're both great runners, great feet, tough. I think that the advantage is not the advantage. Steve Young's one of the most accurate passers we've ever had in the history. Now, Taysom Hill may be more physical, knock you in the mouth guy, but Sean Payton's also said he thinks that he's got a future quarterback in Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
And he really gives you a different dynamic than a Bridgewater or even a Breeze gives you. Why? And I think you'll see more of as a change-up pitch. I think he's got some long-term upside, man. He does. And I'm a fan of his. And he's not. I wouldn't give him the job now, but I'm going to tell you what. I trust the fact that he can get me through if something were to happen to Bridgewater. Now, Teddy's got to play better than he did last week. And why he came back, in my mind, you start to look around and say, okay, I'm a backup. I go start on another team, and if the team's not good and I get beat up, and then I'm back out of favor again. I stay here. Drew Brees is 40. And he's 39 last year, 40 this year. If I can hold on and do this, I can wait, boom, then I can come on with an offense, defense, and a play caller that's as good as we have in the league. That's a Super Bowl team every year now. What's not? I play indoors half my games. What's not to like? So I get why he came back, and this is an opportunity now for him to get paid big. And if he doesn't play well, the Saints, by the time Drew gets back, they won't make the playoffs. So he has got this now. Here's exactly to validate what you guys are talking about. 5 or 6 quarters. If you go through I want you guys, when you get off or sometime today, when you get off the air, go through all 32 teams and find me 8 guys, 6 guys that you trust to win you 5 games as a backup. There's not many of them.
Yeah.
Josh McCown in Philly. Bridgewater should be that guy. There's not many, man. There just isn't. So Bridgewater is one of those guys, and he's got to sustain it. So I think he went there when you look at the team and say, I'm getting paid pretty good. The long-term ramifications can be huge if I'm back to being healthy Teddy Bridgewater that people expect. But he does have to play better. He was not sharp. He's got to be more accurate. So I do think that Taysom Hill is going to move his way in there and get more work with this group and a nice changeup. And I think there's some long-term love affair with Sean Payton and Taysom Hill as long as he's accurate. But when you want toughness and good arm strength, Taysom Hill's got that. He's just got to be more polished. They're fortunate that they have 3 guys with Brees healthy that they can get under center and win with. Most teams don't have 2.
Sean, if we take you back to like an in-game injury, so you're the backup, you give the Minnesota example. So Warren Moon gets hurt. How important is just, I don't even know how to describe it, maybe your body language, your confidence. The first time Moon's hurt, you've thrown 3 passes on the sideline. Hey, Sean, you're in. Just the first moment you're in the huddle, maybe calling the play with confidence, reassuring the guys. How important is your body language, your confidence that first time you're stepping into the huddle?
Well, it's huge, and I would hope that you would have developed that during training camp and during practice. People see how you prepare. A lot of that's in when they get there at 7 in the morning, they know you've already been through your lifting and studied an hour of film by the time the tight ends or wide receivers come rolling into the building. And obviously, as a guy like me who'd been around a long time, the trust factor that they'd seen every day or listened to you in the huddle know that, oh, he's got this. And I know my team knew that, well, if we didn't have Warren or Rich Gannon was out, Sean's going to be fine. We'll win. And Sean will come in here and he'll give us a chance to win. So that felt good. But you're exactly right. Hey, and a lot of times when you come in after something like that, it's adverse situation. Could be that's happened to me on the road in a playoff game in New York. It got miserably cold, and I had to drop back and pass with Lawrence Taylor there on a 3rd and 6, backed up at our own goal line in a play. That's not fun, but get a completion, and then things change. Or coming in at home and the crowd's expecting it. So body language, confidence, and the ability to know. As John Robinson, my coach, always said, after you throw an incompletion behind when you're dropping an F-bomb or you're pissed in practice, he took me behind one year at my freshman year at USC. Bruce Matthews, Don Mospar, Roy Foster, all offensive linemen. He said, I was pissed one day as a highly recruited freshman, wanted to play, I missed a ball or threw a pick in practice. He walked me behind the huddle and he said, Sean, he goes, listen, you don't ever have to blame anybody. He goes, but when you're out, when you're out loud like that and blaming yourself and cussing yourself out, those 5 guys up front, they think it's your fault. Even if it is your fault, you don't want them to think it's your fault. They want to know that when they get in the huddle that their guys got it, that everything's under control. And I learned a valuable lesson thinking, even if it's my fault, I'm not going to point a finger if a guy drops a ball, but those offensive linemen truthfully want to make sure it can be anybody else's fault. They don't want it to be their quarterback's fault. That's just called leadership. So, hey, when you walk in the huddle, they've got to know that no matter if you've completed 9 balls in a row or just threw 2 picks, dudes, I got this. And then by doing it over the course of time, they trust you more and more. So you got to do it. You can't just talk it. I wasn't a big talker in the huddle, but I think they knew mentally and physically I was prepared, if need be, to bail them out and give them a chance to win.
Sean, with all the talk of backup quarterbacks, we're talking about Gardner Minshew and Mason Rudolph, Jones now with the Giants, even Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like under the radar, because he started the season, as Jacoby Brissett, and I consider him almost as much of a backup as any of these other guys. Instead of Luck getting injured, he retired, but Brissett still didn't have a ton of time, and talk about pressure. I think he's acquitted himself pretty damn well so far this year. 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a big-time 100-plus quarterback rating. But for you, how do you break down Jacoby Brissett, and can he be the long-term solution in Indianapolis?
Well, I'll tell you how Frank Reich and the franchise, Chris Ballard, feel about him.
Yeah.
Within a week, they gave him $15 million a year for 2 years as a guy who'd never been a full-time starter.
Yeah.
And we got to cut him some slack, because when he got there, if you recall, he came in after the 4th preseason game when Andrew Luck was hurt. They traded for him. He came there for Philip Dorsett. He had a week to prepare to play, so he didn't even know the offense. We got to cut him some slack. When Andrew Luck retired, I said, go ahead and blink, and the Colts will still win the division. And I'm not sure they're not going to. Their roster's still good. Now, is he Luck? Of course not. But you're exactly right. He still gets looked at as a backup.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, you better respect Brissett. He played behind Brady, got to learn there, understands what it's like to get kicked in the mouth and be through adversity. He's done that, losing record. But I'm telling you, Frank Reich knows how to handle backup quarterbacks. He was one. He also coached Nick Foles and helped him to a Super Bowl. He gets it. I'm telling you, go ahead. With all that's going on in the South, if the Texans want to mess around and watching what Minshew's doing, when this season's over, the national respect for Jacoby Brissett will grow. He ain't the 28th best. Matter of fact, I'll take him 50 times over Marcus Mariota right now.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So, aside from Watson, he is the best quarterback in the division with Nick Foles hurt. So, and he may be better than Foles when Foles comes back. Minshew's doing a good job. I have a lot of respect for Brissett, and I root for guys like that because I was him. I just didn't get paid $15 million a year to do it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that time's still coming for you, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a TV and radio job out there that could pay me $15 million a year? I'm in.
Yeah.
Powerball something.
I've said it many times, Sean. It's just a matter of time before all the stuff you're doing is fantastic, but it's just a matter of time before your rear ends on Monday Night Football. I'm telling you.
Well, that would be nice. Close one time, maybe it'll prove itself again. All I know is that just give me a chance to take on Bayless and Kellerman and my guy Steven. I love them, but I just want a chance to battle with those guys just for fun. Or bring Clayton and I back. Either way, I'm loving what I'm doing. It'd be nice to be in a coat and tie on TV again, but hey, I'll wait for that. Hey, keep busting your butt. Good things happen, man. That's all.
There you go. Thank you, Sean. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate you guys. You too. Have a good one.
See you, buddy.
All right.
The Drive.